The government's been in place for 9 months now, and we've been working closely with the Queenstown region, in particular through the Mayor Jim Bolt, around putting together a plan for this region. And I think we've got an understanding of the unique challenges that face Queenstown as a high growth area, smallish ratepayer base, burgeoning sector in terms of tourism. And so we're working hard on that. But equally we have to manage expectations that it does take a lot to shift the ship of state. That'll take a bit longer than 9 months, but hopefully not much longer.
Now, we try not to complain too much in Queenstown, but we really do have hundreds, if not thousands, of people living in overcrowded, overpriced rental accommodation. We have teachers, doctors, nurses leaving because they just can't afford to be here. We're getting close to our reputation internationally being damaged. So surely there's a need to act faster than is currently happening.
Certainly on housing, I absolutely accept that has built up as part of New Zealand's housing crisis here in Queenstown, and it's why Phil Twyford is so focused on moving forward on that. So Queenstown's a target region for Kiwi Build. We intend to make sure that affordable houses are being built here. We're already working in partnership with the Housing Trust here in Queenstown, working with Ngāi Tahu as well around the sites that they've got responsibility for. The Housing Infrastructure Fund is another area in which announcements will be made in the very near future, along with continuing to work on the social housing end of the spectrum. So activities are underway there, and there will be announcements very soon.
So you've said today that GST sharing is off the table. A bed tax looks complicated. Do you think then we're heading towards the equivalent of the Auckland regional fuel tax?
I very much doubt a regional fuel tax would work here, just because in Auckland that was a very specific issue for a city where I think the residents understand that the issue there is population growth, and they themselves have to pay their share. I think the issue here isn't population growth in terms of full-time population, it's actually the burgeoning visitor population that's really driving that. What we've got to do is look at what are the most appropriate funding sources for this region to fund its infrastructure. And we've got the Productivity Commission now looking at that overall in terms of local government, but equally we've got to keep working with Queenstown on its unique circumstances. Clearly what I heard today from business people was mixed views on the question of a so-called bed tax, and we'll be looking for a clear steer from this region about what is the preferred version of local financing that's here. But what we're working on with the Queenstown Lakes District Council is an understanding of what central government can bring to the table, what they can bring to the table, and what is the funding gap. And we want to work together on bridging that gap.
There must be some delay or some problem there, because as you know, Jim's a pretty straightforward person. I think he's probably a good person to do business with. He's, I'm sure, left you in no doubt as to what the issues are. And yet 2 months ago he said 200 million from the Provincial Growth Fund was in the bag and the bed tax was a done deal. Neither of those things look close, and TVNZ is reporting that only 1% of the Regional Growth Fund has come to the South Island, let alone Queenstown.
Yeah, I think it's very early days to judge the Provincial Growth Fund. I mean, we really are just setting out on that, and it remains a fund that this region, the South Island, will get a share of, and I hope that the region puts together good bids for that. In terms of the other issues around the bed tax, look, we're continuing to talk. We're not far away here from being able to say something about the kind of partnership that central government and the QLDC can have. But it is only 9 months, and he is a good lobbyist, but there's a little bit more work to do just yet.
So is Queenstown on the urgent list, or are you just saying nice things to us?
Look, we understand the unique challenges facing Queenstown, and we recognise that particularly in areas like housing we are at a very difficult stage. So it's in the very important list, it is in our priorities, and it's not that we're sitting around. You know, work's underway on housing, on transport. We've just approved the government's new transport strategy that has a focus on regional roads. It has a focus on ensuring connections for tourism are prioritised. So that work's already happening, and there'll be announcements able to be made about that very, very soon. Really the debate around the bed tax is about the long-term financing of infrastructure, and we want to look at a range of options for that across New Zealand. But with Queenstown, we note that it is a special and unique case.
It's starting now to be clear there are many more issues than a bed tax can fix. We've got a hospital here that's outdated. Even the DHB says it's woefully inadequate. They're spending $6 million over 7 years to add 3 beds. Dunedin's getting a $1.4 billion hospital. I mean, surely we need to find a way to make things happen here in a more focused way.
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously hospital services are delivered on effectively a regional basis through DHBs. And the focus in this region is on rebuilding Dunedin Hospital. It's the tertiary level hospital for this region, and I think people in Queenstown will benefit significantly from the development of Dunedin Hospital. In terms of the local medical services provided here, this has been an ongoing issue for many years, and we'll clearly listen to what the DHB's got to say about making sure that we do provide adequate services here. I'm not in receipt of any particular plan in that regard, but if one comes across my desk, I'll look closely at it. But I think everybody knows and understands that the rebuild of Dunedin Hospital is our priority.
So the Southern DHB really would need to come to you with a special case, because we've got 3 million visitors a year, and yet they're using a population model that says there's only 25,000 people here.
Well, that's right, and the population-based funding formula is one of the things we're looking at as part of our health system review, which we've just got underway, and that'll cover a lot of the issues that I think affect Queenstown, but in terms of specific proposals, that will indeed have to come from the DHB to us.
And would you agree that our reputation internationally is fragile? It wouldn't take much to push it across the line?
Oh, I don't know about that. I think that the reputation of Queenstown as a tourist destination is excellent, and it's clearly got that style of a resort town that other resort towns in the world have, and it's about making sure that we provide a good quality of public service here. We do, as a government, address the issues that we can help with, which are in those core infrastructure areas. I think most people have a wonderful experience when they come to Queenstown, and we'll continue to do what we can to support that.
One final question is that the Airport Corporation announced today they're pushing ahead towards 5 million passengers a year. As you know, we're under stress on so many different fronts. Do you really think it's smart for us to keep just bringing people in? I mean, 5 million people a year.
Look, my view is we do have to understand what sustainable growth is. Sustainable growth is not exponential growth. And I think as a region, that's one of the things we as central government will be looking for, is the plan for sustainable growth of tourism. It's not just a matter of approving a financing or funding mechanism like a bed tax. We need to know what that's for. And that'll be part of the partnership that we're wanting to develop here, is for sustainable growth. Over time, we have to lift the value of tourism to the New Zealand economy, not just the volume of it. And I know from talking to Destination Queenstown and others, they understand that too. The Chamber of Commerce understands that, the Council understands that. So it can't just be exponential growth, and I think, you know, the numbers that the airport's talking about will give people reason for pause for thought for what that future sustainable strategy looks like. The same applies to New Zealand as a whole. We can see right around the country the pressure that's being put on us by the growth in tourism in an exponential way. It needs to be sustainable and it needs to be planned. Tourism will continue to be a very important part of New Zealand's economy, and obviously for Queenstown, but I don't think unfettered, unplanned growth is sensible at all.